Now this is something you definitely don't see every day. A massive abandoned snow shed up here in the mountains of Washington in an old, it's not even a ghost town, the town's gone. Wellington, Washington. This is the site of the worst avalanche in the history of the US. 96 people killed back in 1910. And they built this snow shed in 1911 to protect against any further avalanches. I'm here with my buddy Harmon.
Hey, what's up, guys?
He does a lot of abandoned stuff and actually more recently true crime stuff. Very interesting videos. So I'm going to put his link down below. But he wanted to come here with me and see this amazing and unfortunate piece of history here. And we can't get over the size of this snow shed. This is a half a mile long and it's got to be 35 feet tall. Now we're going to show you everywhere. There's an abandoned tunnel here about 2.6 miles long. This massive snow shed, what is left of the town, and I'm going to show you where the trains ended up. They were parked right here, 2 trains, and the avalanche came down and pushed the trains down about 150 feet into the ravine. We're going to go down there because there are still remnants of the trains down there, pieces. This is an amazing bit of history here, and I feel like a lot of people do not know about this. 96 people died in this incredibly huge avalanche. So we're going to check this out and take you along for the ride. This is some interesting history here. Now, real quickly, for those who might not know the whole story of this disaster, 2 Great Northern trains, both bound for Seattle, were making their way over these mountains. The Spokane Local number 25 carrying just passengers and the Fast Mail train number 27 both had been delayed in Leavenworth, Washington due to the storm, but then continued on their way, making their way through the Cascade Tunnel, which is the old tunnel that we're going to show you, or what is left of it. But then were forced to stop again right outside of the town. They were getting 1 foot of snow every hour. And the small town's 10-foot wide rotary snowplow just could not keep up with this. And so these 2 trains sat there on the side of this mountain for days and days, waiting out the storm and waiting for other snowplows to arrive, which were also delayed because of the snow. And on March 1st, it is believed that a clap of thunder started a massive avalanche high above the train tracks where those trains were sitting. An incredible amount of snow came barreling down the mountainside and slammed into the trains, pushing them down to the bottom of the ravine, down about 150 feet. Ultimately, 35 of the passengers died, 58 crew members from both trains, and actually 3 employees from the depot who were in the buildings that were crushed by the avalanche. So that is just a little bit of the history of what happened here 110 years ago, and we're going to show you what things look like now. Now, there were 2 tracks in this snow shed. Now, the interesting thing is the original tracks were not here. They were actually out maybe 30 feet or so, 30, 35 feet, maybe 40 feet out. And this would have been the mountainside. They actually dug into the mountain to create this snow shed. The tracks were moved inward, and this was built to protect against any future avalanches. You don't really ever get to see the backside of this. Okay, climbing up here. All right, so this is the top. Gives you an idea. Let me see what's up here. This moss is beautiful. Look at this. It looks like we're in a park right now. Now keep in mind, this was built to withstand a lot of weight. On average, 35 feet a year snowfall here. This thing has seen some weight on it. No idea what this is. Up on top of here is a great way to show you where the original tracks were, where the two trains were sitting. There was a mail train sitting on the outside, and there was a passenger train sitting on the inside. And they were about where that clearing is, you can see. Now, it's changed a lot. They changed this whole area after the avalanche. And of course, the avalanche changed a lot of the area too. But for them to build this, they really had to reconstruct this whole part of the hill. But you can see where it carries on. They dug this out for the water. And then down there, that's where the tracks would have continued. So the trains were sitting out there. Where they ended up when the avalanche happened, it pushed them down that hill about 150 feet down into the bottom of that ravine, or the Tai River or Tai Creek. This is the tail end here of the snow shed. And this part has obviously seen better days. Look at all that rebar in there. They made this thing to last. I'm not sure what happened on this end, but the rest of it is doing pretty good. Look at that. You see here, the rails are here anymore. I think that was all removed during the construction of the shed. This is exactly where the two trains were sitting for 6 days, mind you, waiting out that storm, waiting for some plows to come in and clear the tracks. Now, to be clear, they had already come down through the town. They were held up and they were sitting. One was on the passing track and one was on the main line, main track. I think the ties are still here. Look, you could still see the railroad ties. See how the different mounds? I would bet you money that this is remnants of at least one track. The other one was probably right here. Huh. I'll tell you what, and I'm sure Harmon can agree with this. No matter how many abandoned tunnels you come across, they're always amazing. Each one is so different, and they're just incredible looking. See, it says Cascade up there. The original Cascade Tunnel. This tunnel finally opened around 1900. They started working on it about 1897, and this was to alleviate the travel of steep switchbacks that climbed over these mountains. So this tunnel at the time was very much welcomed. It's 2.6 miles. It's very, very long. So we're not going to be walking through this whole thing. This has not been used since 1929, when the new tunnel not too far from here was built, also called the Cascade Tunnel. Why didn't they just move the trains into the tunnel to protect them? This tunnel is on the opposite side of Wellington, where they were near the snow sheds. And it's almost a half a mile, I would say. And they would have had to push those trains back up the hill, back through the town with all that snow. And then on top of that, this tunnel, when it was built from the very beginning, had a lot of problems with fumes and exhaust. The airflow was not good in this tunnel. So they were actually, ironically, they were trying to protect the people on the train from being poisoned by the coal exhaust. So that's why they didn't do that. It was more so that it was going to be too difficult, too much effort to get the train back up here a half a mile in that snowstorm, and then also then potentially people could have died from the exhaust. So that's why they did not stay in the tunnel. We have come across a massive cave-in to the point where there's no way we can even go any further. Look at that. Yeah, that's going to give way at some point. Hopefully not today. The tunnel is right back there. That's where we just came out of. This right here was the main water tank. So when they, a train would either be approaching the tunnel or just out of the tunnel, they would stop right in here and they would fill up. And then the town is, I'd say it's about a quarter of a mile this way, the small little town of Wellington. So that's what I was saying when I was in the tunnel, that it would have been very difficult for them to back the train all the way up through the town, through those switches, and make it back into the tunnel. And even if they did, they're thinking that, the fumes of the train could kill the passengers. They had problems with it from day one in the beginning. So it's always easy to look back and, armchair it and say, well, they should have done this or should have done that. But at the time, that was the best option. They felt that was the best way to keep these people safe. A little ways down the trail, we're starting to come into where Wellington was. One of the first structures you come across is this old coal tower. You can see a coal tower in a lot of the pictures, the old pictures, where the trains, either before or after coming through the tunnel, would load up on coal. And this is where it was. I'll show you what it looks like inside. I mean, there's not really nothing left of it, but there's some cool old metal pieces. But the coal was dumped here at the bottom and then raised up with an elevator, and then it would go into the trains. Look at that huge tree growing out of this thing now. So there are some information signs out here where you can really get an idea of what things look like. This is the main line, or there's three lines that came through the town. The tunnel would have been about a quarter of a mile back this way, where we just came from. The Ballots Hotel, or the Hotel Ballots, it was right up there, right up in those woods. This is the start of the runaway track. So as the trains would come through the town, if they were going too fast, if they had problems with brakes, they would remain on this runaway track, and it would go all the way up this hill. I don't know how it went, but yeah. So from this angle, it looks a little weird, but the depot was basically kind of almost in front of the hotel. Now the town pretty much sat right in here. There's actually some foundations that are left. This could have been the depot, the original depot. It's hard to kind of figure out where everything was because lots of stuff was changed after the avalanche. The depot was moved, for instance, but this is a foundation to something. Yes, this is the start of the runaway. It's very obvious to see where this came in, because it's definitely elevated here. It's not uncommon to find pieces of train here because there were train wrecks in this area from time to time. That's what this was for. It was designed to be able to slow these trains down. Even if they crashed, they would be moving a lot slower than if they were flying down this pass here. As the trains were making it through the Cascade Tunnel, they would be coming down that slope through the town, and if they had brake problems, the trains would be directed onto this runaway ramp here. Now this ramp was rebuilt after the avalanche because the original runaway ramp was destroyed in the avalanche. So this is more 1911 when this was replaced. That would mean that the Ballots Hotel was all up in this area here. It was by far the biggest building in Wellington. It was also the post office, I think a pool hall, and there was a restaurant in there. Now, some of the people that were on that train managed to find some rooms available at the hotel, but only a few. It wasn't that big of a hotel. So everybody else, unfortunately, was staying on the train. However, I think some people at least did go back and forth. I'd say eighth of a mile to a quarter of a mile, which is kind of annoying when there's a massive snowstorm going on. But that's how they were able to eat. I mean, they were on that train for 6 days. This looks like it's kind of what's left of some of the foundation to the hotel. That's definitely concrete. Ballots was not destroyed in the avalanche. It just luckily was built in an area where it just missed it. Now it's hard to see because there's so much overgrowth around here, but down here is the creek or river, whatever you want to call it. You can just see it down there. There used to be a bridge here, the train bridge, real small one. And it's in some of the pictures, which I'll add, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But all right, so this is the original. You can see in the picture the original part of this bridge here. It's way bigger in person than it looks in that photo. But so basically, we are standing on top. This is original to that bridge that was here. It was a small little bridge that would just cross over that brook. There you go. It's a better view here. The actual cement, you can see the concrete. It's just hard to get down here to show you. This is just completely overgrown and everything's of course icy and wet. Look at that. That's the original wall to that bridge. They just rebuilt it. They put a culvert down there, or whatever you want to call it, and then they filled this all in. Judging by these trees here, who knows, maybe 30, 40 years ago. You know, it's kind of like a public area now, a park. So you can come and hike these trails. So they obviously wanted to make it safe for everybody. Yeah, this kind of illustrates what I've been saying. This is the town of Wellington. Right here is that bridge that I pointed out. Those are the walls that we found. The big hotel was right here. And then luckily that was not destroyed or in any way from the avalanche. This is really the edge of it. You can see this is before the avalanche, because the snow shed is all right here. This building here was destroyed. So that gives you an idea. And again, I think that maybe that piece of foundation that I saw, I think that's one of those buildings, but maybe not. Hey man, at least it's not icy anymore.
No, for sure. And actually, you know what would be smart?
Alright, so this is where we're heading down into the woods here. Down into the ravine to see what is left.
Oh yeah, you don't have gloves on.
Yeah, this is no place to check out when it's really snowing.
No, it would be impossible.
Yeah, pretty much next to impossible. I can't imagine what it would take to break that.
That would be a lot of force. A lot of force.
Yeah, I mean like an unbelievable amount.
Yeah, because that's not a small, cheap little thing. Like that's a very heavy.
Yep. I'd say we're about 150 feet. You can't even see the snow shed anymore.
From up there.
No, but I can see already. It looks like some sort of a boiler or something. Now, this could have been for steam, for heat on the train. This could have been for the passenger train. I don't know too much about trains. I mean, I know some things, but now this stuff, it almost looks, if this almost looks displayed to you, it's because people have been down here and they've pulled things out of the leaves and out of the ground, inspected them. I mean, people definitely come down here. They know about this. Now, picture 1910, right after the avalanche. This whole area would have just been a mess of absolutely ripped apart train cars, huge trees from the mountain above, parts of the building came down, and unfortunately, deceased people as well. By the way, there's some speculation as to how exactly that avalanche started. Now, although they were getting all of that snow, in some cases 1 foot every hour, towards right before that avalanche happened, warmed up, and actually they were getting more rain than snow. So unfortunately, it probably made that snow a lot heavier than it was. So some people say that it was the weight, and it was the fact that the snow was starting to melt up there. Some people, a lot of people, think that it was probably a clap of thunder, because people remember hearing thunder right before. Who knows? But in any event, something triggered it, and a massive wall, basically the entire side of that steep mountain above us, just gave way, and all of that snow and ice came down. I think it was estimated it was a half a mile by a quarter mile, and however deep it was, 30 feet of snow, 20 feet of snow, who knows? These are steam pipes, or hot water pipes, whatever you want to call them, and they were totally somehow wrapped around and bent around this tree. How bizarre. How does that even happen? This says, in memory of those who perished. So there were a lot of the Green Northern Railroad workers. There was a lot of them that died. The mail truck, I believe, had 13 mail clerks on there, and only one survived. Alfred Hansel, 19 years old, and the only reason he survived is because he was asleep in the back part of one of the train cars. The others were either hanging out or asleep in the front of it. And when the avalanche came and took the train, it actually broke that car in half, totally ripped it in half. He survived, and the other 12 perished. Look at this stuff. What do you think this could be? That looks like, what, an oil line? There's so much of it. Just so many little pieces that I don't know, maybe some of the stuff has been never seen. Who knows? Look at this. I don't know. I don't know. It's like maybe some frame worked. I don't know. I don't know what this stuff is. It's just, at this point, a lot of it's just twisted metal. You could spend days out here just walking around and discovering something new every time. I mean, because if you walk past a downed tree, the other side could have something, and you didn't even see it. Because your eyes are focused on something else. I don't know what that is. I guess it just seems like they kind of took the bigger stuff, the stuff that was maybe a little bit easier to drag up the hill, with the machines or whatever they were using. And then, you know, the smaller stuff, because there's just so much of it that stuff was just kind of left here. This is the stairs, I think. It's upside down, but when you walk up on the train, you know, step up onto the train, those 2 or 3 steps, whatever it is, I think that's what that is. This, you know, we're a little closer to the town now. I mean, it's still down at the bottom, but I've been walking along here. So I'm wondering, this definitely could have been from that building that was near the hotel. You know, could have had tools or grease, oil, who knows? Could have had something in there. I can't even imagine if it took out the whole town at that time. It would have been far more devastating, obviously. Hard to say what that is. Actually, there's another one here. I'm guessing this was for heat for the passenger train. I don't know that mail train would have even had heat. So most likely this was almost the start of the trains, and that's from the passenger train. That would have made steam. It would have been steam heat to keep everybody warm. When the avalanche hit the trains, technically it hit the passenger train first, which was on the inside track. And then that was pushed into, I mean, you're talking a millisecond, but that was pushed into the mail train, and it just tumbled and ripped everything apart. I can only imagine the carnage. It's just unreal to think about the destruction and what that must have looked like. It took over 20 weeks for them to completely clear this area and pull up the last of the bodies of the 96 people who died down here. All right, so we were back up from the train area. Very somber experience down there. I definitely want to always show my respect. You know, whenever I visit somewhere where people have perished, you know, it's always a sobering experience to know that, you know, anybody, but let alone 96 people have died right where I'm walking. But I'm really glad I came here. I did want to come back up and show you. I didn't show you before, but this, you can just see the hill. That hill is where all of that snow came down, and where we were was, you know, down in there. And again, this is the hotel would have been right up here. Interesting experience here. Big thanks to Harmon for coming with me.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Crazy experience.
He filmed a video too, so go over and check his video out. A lot of times we'll film different things. Actually, even when we were down at the site down where the train, you know, he was way over, I couldn't even see him. So we were, you know, different places, so we found different things. So definitely check his video out. I'm going to put the link down below. I'm going to get out of here. I'm hungry. What do you?
Yeah.
We've been here all day.
It's been a long, long day.
Yeah, crazy experience. So hope you liked it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Subscribe to his channel.